Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Kyra and today again we are getting into the art of makeup. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I hope you'll consider subscribing before you leave, or if you're new to this series, every other week I bring to you an episode of learning. I've been on my journey in beauty with makeup and skincare for 2 years now on YouTube, and part of my journey in learning is to bring that learning back to you guys and regurgitate it to you in a way that's simple, easy to understand, and easy to execute. So we've already talked about brushes, and then last time we talked about how to choose our eyeshadows, whether we're into warm tones or cool tones. And this week we are actually going to put some eyeshadow on our eyeballs. So I've already primed my eyes with the Smashbox Photo Finish Lid Primer in Light. It's a very good primer, and as I said before, we're going to be dipping into the e.l.f. the New Classics palette. I don't know why they couldn't just call it New Classics instead of the New Classics, but I don't own e.l.f. Cosmetics. I think we're just going to go ahead and go with a straight warm toned shadow with a pop of color on the lid like we talked about last week. So let's get into it. So like we talked about in our brush video, in order to create a gradient, I want not only a light, medium, and dark shadow, but I also want a large fluffy, medium fluffy, and small fluffy. These brushes, in case you're curious, are from Bdellium Tools. I will have a link below in case you're interested in purchasing any brushes from them. It is an affiliate link. I do get some kind of a spiff, $5 towards a brush or a free brush or something like that. But you can also purchase from their website with no code. It's just that it gives you guys a little discount. Anywho, I'll also list these 3 brushes down below, along with the palette and the primer. The Big Fluffy is what we're going to start out with, and we're going to use this for the light shade, the transition shade. It's been a morning already. I did my damn yoga today. Some days I'm like, yeah, yoga, and other days I'm like, damn, yoga, and I do it anyways. So anyhow, we are first going to go into this warm shade right here. This is going to be my light shade, and it's called Truffle, in case you're playing along at home. So I like to start my brush on the outer part of my eye, up here in the transition area. That's pretty much from your brow down to your crease, although I don't take it all the way up to my brow. And the reason I started on the outside is, first, if you're not aware, wherever you place your brush first is where the most amount of pigment is going to go, especially since I don't set my eyeshadow primer. You absolutely can, and this will still work beautifully for you. But also on the outer part of the eye, when you start and you start up higher, it's going to give a lift to the eye, and we all want a lift to the eye, not to drag the eye down. So here we go. Wow, seemed like a lot of preamble. And I just first kind of apply it to the outer part, like I said, getting off the most pigment off the brush. And then once I'm certain that that has happened, I start working it toward the inner corner of the eye. And you just want a nice gradient. You can go however dark or light that you want with this, but you know, it's all going to work the same. See how, since we have the most pigment over here, it gives a lift to my eye. If I start down here, it's going to drag the eye down. If I start up here on this fatty part of the brow bone, it's going to give that lift to the eye. So I really want to make sure that that's established. If you do go down too far, it is definitely fixable. You can just take either a white or bone colored shadow, depending upon your skin tone, or a color that matches your skin tone, or you can take a translucent powder and just dust upward, and that's going to help you clean up that side. You can also use concealer if you do your eyes first. I always do my base first. So that was simple, right? We have a nice light wash of color with our light shade, which is Truffle. And then going into my mid-tone shade is this one right here, which is called Darling. Taking my medium fluffy brush here. So now that I have my pigment on my brush, we are going to go into the crease. That's the part that's under your eye bone, under your brow bone here. And that's where we're going to place this slightly darker pigment. And how I like to do this is to get it right on the outer part of the lid, right here. And place my brush there, just like this. And I like to pat it right here, even pat it on the outer part of the lid, getting off most of the pigment again, and then start working in circular motions on these, staying on this outer part of the crease right here. I'll hopefully have you nice and zoomed in, editing Kyra. And then I start working my way in once I'm sure I have most of the pigment off of my brush. And as you can see here, because we've gone with a gradient of light, medium, and dark, this medium shade is blending into the light shade beautifully. Like you can't even see where one stops and the next begins. Now, if you can see, based on the shadows that you've picked, you can go back in with your large fluffy and just, again, blend starting the outside and work your way in. Very, very simple. I'm going to do this, whoops, stuck my finger in a shade. I'm going to add just one more bit of this mid-tone, placing it again on that outer part of the lid and crease, patting it or pressing it into the skin. And then once I have that placed, I'm going to work in circular motions on the outermost part of the eye and work my way in once I have most of the pigment off. And that creates a nice opening, like it keeps the eye looking open. As you can see, like you can still see all of my lid. And that's because the colors are up high enough. So once you're happy with how that is, if you need to, again, go back in with your original Big Fluffy or a clean Big Fluffy brush and just go over the area where you place the transition one more time to make sure everything is blended. In terms of blending and where you're going to hold your brush, where you're going to hold your brush is at the end, like this. You're not going to hold your brush up here because you can see how the bristles are splayed out here. It's too much pressure. Whereas if I hold it all the way at the end of the brush, you're going to be able to basically just tickle that skin on your eye, and it's going to provide that really soft blend. I apologize I didn't talk about that earlier. I'm not even looking at my notes. I'm just like flying by the seat of my pants here. But the result is the same. A fellow YouTuber that I used to watch all the time when I was learning how to paint with acrylics, her name is Cinnamon Cooney, and I will have her link down below just in case you're curious, but she coined a term called wet cat pressure. If you've been around, you've probably heard me talk about this before, but for the new friends here, wet cat pressure means the amount of pressure that you would approach a very wet, pissed off cat. You would tread lightly, would you not? That's where we come in with holding our brush on the end, because we can just barely touch the skin. Like I said, just tickle the skin, and it's going to be the softest, most beautiful blend that you've ever had. So now that we have light and mid-tone placed, we're going to go in with our deep tone. For me, it's this warm brown right here called Muse. And I'm going to take my third smallest fluffy brush. This is the 781 Crease brush. And you can see here, it's kind of misshapen because I use this like literally every day, but it does come to somewhat of a taper, which is nice. We've talked about this in the brush video, but tapered means it's going to get into that crease without causing much shadow to get above or below where you place your brush. So I'm gonna go in with our deep shade. It's important to note that we tap off our brush because we can always build up the shadow, but it's very hard to take it away. So brush is loaded, locked and loaded, folks. And again, we're gonna place this just on the outer part of the lid. And I just press it to the outer part of the lid. And I like to bring it in about 1/3 of the way. And you can see I just got a little bit of pigment there. I'm gonna pick up some more, tap off the excess. And at this point, I'm going to just wiggle my brush the tiniest bit to start blending it in a little bit. We're still just working on the lid here. We are not even close to the crease just yet. I'm picking up just a little bit more. Again, tapping off the excess. Again, starting at the very outer part of the lid. Each time you add shadow, you're going to add it to the outer part of the lid so that that continues to be the deepest part, because you want a fade even if you want depth, or at least I do. This is all relative, you guys. This is all me and how I do things. So again, just going to wiggle this brush back and forth. Again, I'm holding it at the end of the brush so that I am just pressing lightly and just making sure we have a nice blend. Now, this last time that I load my brush, I'm going to bring this up to the crease, but not into the crease, because when we go back with our mid-tone to blend this deeper tone, we want them to meet and meld in that crease, but not bring the dark shade up any, or at least that's what I want. So again, starting at the outer part, but I am actually in the crease now. That's where your eye creases when it opens and closes. And I'm just working in circular motions. And once I'm certain that I have every bit of pigment off of the brush, I'm going to bring it in just ever so slightly. Not past the 1/3 that we've established with the deeper shade, just meeting with it. Okay, looks a little patchy. We went down a little bit too far. That's normal. Going back in the medium brush with the mid-tone shade called Darling. Loading the brush. I like to load it up, tap it off, and then now we are going to bring this, believe it or not, right over the deep shade. This is what I do, especially because some deeper shades can be patchy, regardless of skill, regardless of quality of shadow. This just happens, and I find when I tap this mid-tone over the deep tone like that, it is a perfect fade. So one more time, layering the mid over the deep, and then have the tiniest blend up in the crease, the tiniest, just a little bit. You could even do this with the smaller brush if you want. Now, going back into our big fluffy and the lightest shade, back to the lightest shade, and we're just going to add a little bit on the outer part of the lid, not the lid, the outer part of the eye, and bring it to meet up with that mid-tone, making sure we have soft edges from light to medium to dark. And then just a little windshield wiper going in, making sure everything is blended. Now, to me, that's a beautiful fade. I do, however, need to clean up that side here. So we talked about in the brush video this magic eraser brush. This is a very dense domed brush. These are relatively easy to find. And again, I will have this one listed down below. What I'm going to do is come into this bone colored shadow called Creme. So we're just going to come to the very corner of the eye with that bone colored shadow, or one that matches your skin tone better, however you like. And we're just going to drag it up. And you're going to use however much you want. And I don't think this makes the eye look dry or powdery or anything like that. And then I'm just going to briefly tickle the edges with this magic eraser brush. It is very light, wet cat pressure. And that's it. I like this little bit of a winged look here. All right, I'm going to quick do the other eye. I'm going to speed through it for you just so you can see it, but you can see that I am doing the same thing on the other eye. Same brushes, same process. Here I go. All right, as you can see, it really doesn't take a lot of blending when you layer the shades in this way, especially like putting the mid-tone both under and over the darker shade in the outer corner. It really doesn't take a lot of blending or, you know, movement of the brush type of blending. So real quick, we're going to do a very simple lower lash line, if I can find the brush. This is just a slanty type of brush here. It's very slanted. It's called a small angled shader. I'm going to take our mid-tone right here, darling, load up the brush, tap it off. Starting at the outer V, I'm just going to wiggle my brush along the lower lash line. Again, getting the bulk of the pigment on the outer part of the eye and then working my way in. For the lid, how I like to apply my lid shadow, I feel like this helps with opacity of the shimmer shade. If you really want a popping lid, this is how you do it, or this is how I do it. So I want a green lid today. I'm going in with this shade, which is called Gilded. I'm first going to just go in with a flat shader brush. This is a flat brush here, and I'm going to apply this over the entire part of the lid that I want this green shadow on. I usually start on the inner part of the lid and work out, and I like to use a swiping motion for this part, but you can apply it however you want. You absolutely don't have to apply it this way. This shade is beautiful, but it can be a little bit finicky. And as always, I like to scoop up my shadow right here to kind of lift the eye. Again, I'm all about lifting the eye. I'm almost 40, so there's that. And then each time that I want to add more shadow, I go back to the inner part of the lid and work my way out. I think this is just a nice way for smoothing on the shadow. Now, our God-given tool, the phalange. I'm gonna pick up that same shade. I don't know, this one kind of has a little bit of hard pan, it feels like. Anyhow, and I'm going to do the same thing now, but just using the finger. Going back to our mid-tone brush, or if you used the angle brush, you could use that too. But our mid-tone blending brush, I'm just gonna wipe it off because we did use it to blend over the deepest shade. I'm gonna wipe it off a little bit on that famous washcloth that lives down below. I'm gonna pick up the mid-tone shade, you guessed it, and we're going to give a little blend in between our shimmer and our deepening shade. So starting on the deepening shade, I just go back and forth on the lid here until I feel like it's blended, and that was very easy. This part is optional, and I'm gonna give you two options here. On some people, depending upon your age, depending on the texture that you have on your eyes, skincare concerns, a whole myriad of things, sometimes it looks better with a shimmer inner corner for brightening. You absolutely can skip this. This is optional. Like I said, sometimes a matte shade is more forgiving or has a better effect depending on a lot of things. So I'm going to do one of each eye and then I'll fix it so they're the same. But first we're going to go into this shade right here, which is Blanc, and it is a satin sort of cream color. And I place that in my inner corner here. And I like to bring mine up. Allie Glines calls this the scoopity whoopity or something like that. I just have been doing this for a long time. So there's your shimmer inner corner there. I'm glowing like a goddess today. And then going back into the shade Creme that we used for cleaning up the sides. Add that in as our inner corner highlight. This is, I don't know, maybe not the best formula for this, but it's still going to brighten. That's the thing, is if you feel like your inner corners don't look nice with a satin or a shimmer highlight, absolutely you can use a cream or a white or any other pastel shade for that matter, and it's going to give that same brightening effect. See, if I look straight on, we're brightened here and we're brightened here, and I did wipe my brush off in between. So now I'm gonna fix it so we match. I'm gonna pop off of here, do some mascara and a lip, and then we'll come back and wrap up the video. All right, we're back. I did apply the L'Oreal Lash Paradise mascara. I'm starting to love this. Odd. And then I finished off the look with my MAC Whirl lip liner and Charlotte Tilbury's Very Victoria. This is very similar to Pillow Talk, but I would say it has a little bit more brown, a little bit more nude instead of pink or rose. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful to you in some way. As always, all of the makeup on my face will be listed down in the description box, as well as the brushes that I used today, as well as if you ever have any questions or need me to expound on anything, please let me know. I am not a professional. This is just how I do things. If this doesn't work for you and you need some help figuring out what will, I am definitely happy to do that. If I don't know something, I will find out for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed today learning a little bit more about blending and about building that perfect gradient in your crease to which you can add any beautiful color on the lid. So I'm not for sure what the next Art of Makeup video is going to be just yet. So if you have any requests, please leave them below, because I absolutely would love your input on what you want to see. What are your questions? What do you struggle with? If I can help you in any way, I absolutely will. And with all of that said, I thank each and every one of you that watched this video today. I hope it was helpful to you, and I hope all of your makeup days are absolutely beautifully blended makeup days, and I will see you in my next video real soon.